Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. And I know it's hard traffic, Orlando traffic going crazy. Thank you for coming this evening. Now, today I'm going to talk about the microbiome. This is a very difficult subject, and it's a very broad subject. And what's a cardiologist talking about? The gut, right? But I'm talking about the gut because, look, I've already said to you all that if you do intermittent fasting, if you cut out the sugar, if you cut out the carbs in your diet, you will get good health. And we've talked about that before. We talked about its effects on insulin production, on diabetes management, the weight loss management, the sleep apnea getting better. We've talked about all these things. But there are added benefits that I noticed when my patients were doing intermittent fasting. So those benefits have to come from somewhere. So I started looking into the gastrointestinal health quite a long time ago. And we find that some of the benefits do come from the gut, again, but in another way, because there's a whole new living system inside you, and that's the microbiome, the bacteria in your gut. And we never realized this. You know, we thought it was all chemicals inside our body, the chemistry of your body, the insulin levels, the glucagon levels, the leptin levels, or all the adiponectin levels, blah, blah, blah. But the question is there something else going on? And the answer is yes, there is something else going on. There's a whole ecology inside your gut that's a bacteria. Now, these bacteria just come there for fun. They are not just hitching a ride with you in your lifetime. Your lifetime is a journey as a symbiote together with the bacteria. You're born without those bacteria, and as you then grew up, the microbiome got filled inside, first from your mom, then your standby people, and all the rest of the stuff. And eventually you got your microbiome. Now, once that microbiome got into you, it's yours, and only yours. It's extremely unique. No two people share the same microbiome. The microbiome is composed of the bacteria, and there are over, well, some people say 38 trillion, some people say 100 trillion bacteria in your gut. Doesn't matter. It's trillions and trillions and trillions. And you are only composed of about 10 trillion cells. So you're pretty much outnumbered, maybe 10 to 1 by your bacteria. So what are these bacteria doing down there? Are they just hitching a ride? And the answer is no. The more we look into it, the more we're realizing that they're intricately involved with your metabolism. Everything that you eat, and even what you don't eat, the bacteria still do something in your gut. So the bacteria are doing something. So maybe we can touch a little bit about this. And I'm going to talk about the cardiac aspects and where my interest in all this lies. Because this is very important. It's not just bacteria. There's also viruses in the gut. So there's about 400 trillion virus particles in your gut. There's also some parasites in your gut. So your gut is a very dynamic place. And the thing is that how many of them are living there is not that important. What's really more important is there's so many species of them. There's over 2,000 different species. And that's also very important because you don't just want one type of bacteria. You want many, many different. So how do we know this? Well, we know this because the people like the Hadzas, for example, they have such a wide variety of bacteria in their gut. They have so many different species. And we in the Western world have very few species. We've become depleted of this. And this seems to be linked to one of the problems that we are all having in our metabolism. There's something wrong in our metabolism. How come? Why is our bacterial flora so impoverished, and then we're getting all these chronic diseases? There's a link between them all. We're going to try to decipher some of these links out. So we know that people who have a wide variety of bacteria inside, and a lot of them, are very healthy. What else could they be doing in there besides? Well, I'm just going to give some broad facts. And of course, I will have references on a lot of this material on my future talks that I'll actually make slides on and I'll show you. But basically, almost 50% of the micronutrients in your body that are floating around right now, making who you are and keeping you alive, are not things that you ate or you metabolized yourself and created. It's what your bacteria created, secreted. It's the waste product of your bacteria. Well, it's not a waste to you because you then consume that into your body. It's secreted by the bacteria, taken up by your gut into your bloodstream. So if 50%, just think about it, 50% of the micronutrients in you right now are not stuff that you consumed, but your bacteria made, released, and you absorbed it. Shouldn't we be paying attention to that gut? we should be paying attention to that microbiome. So if you take germ-free mice, for example, germ-free mice, what are germ-free mice? There's the mice that have no bacteria in them, you can culture them. They don't live long. They die. They have extremely high amounts of immune elevation in the body. So they make a lot of IgG. They're allergic to just about anything. You give them a little peanut and bingo, they'll go into a crazy immune response. They will not grow properly. They will be small, premature, and they'll die. So bacteria are needed. You put then normal mice bacteria into that mouse, and all of a sudden that mouse will start working normally. It'll start gaining weight, it'll live long, and it'll do well. So we know that we need the bacteria. If we take out all the bacteria, you will die prematurely. And we know that from animal studies, we also know that from human studies. An impoverished microbiome leads to death. A wide variety of microbiome is much better. And we also know that these bacteria that are in you seem to affect you differently at different stages in your life. So for example, if you take a kid and say, you know what, these mice, these baby mice, let's keep them germ-free for the equivalent of 2 human years. Remember, mice don't live the same long as we do. The equivalent of 2 human years. Let's not give them any bacteria, but after 2 years, we'll put the bacteria in them. Sounds like a good idea? Make them live longer, right? But what happens is that those mice don't develop properly because it's too late. Too late for what? The brain development didn't occur. These mice have deranged immune function still, and the brains don't develop properly. So there seems to be something about introducing the bacteria at an early stage that's going to affect your immune system. What is it? It's educating your immune system about what to react to and what not to react to. It has a role in what is known as T-cell regulation. So it's basically teaching you, don't react to this, don't react to this, don't react. And who's giving those signals? The bacteria are. So the bacteria have a knowledge which it's passing on to your immune system, telling you, don't react to this, don't be inflammatory. Hey, this is friend, not foe. And that information is built in early on in your stages of your development. And if you pass that stage and then introduce it, it's too late. So then what happens is that the immune suppression that's supposed to happen doesn't happen. So now those mice will be very allergenic later on. And in children also, we're seeing this pattern that if there's not adequate amounts of bacterial population when you are young, that teaches the immune system not to react. Hey, be anti-inflammatory. If you introduce those bacterial species later on, then it's a little bit too late. They will get all sorts of allergies in their life, and they'll react to all sorts of things. We've seen this. Same thing with the brain function. Your brain development, the neurons in your brain seem to be pruned and connected at a certain stage in your development, which seems to be controlled by the bacteria in your gut. Oh, that's just mind-blowing to think that those bacteria are directing how that infant's brain is being pruned or not being pruned. And these studies are very elegant. So it behooves us to look back at the role of these bacteria from the time you're born onward. And maybe they're still having a role now as adults, because now here we are, all of us. And we say, look, we have the problem we have today is chronic diseases. We're no longer dying of all these infections. We're dying of chronic, inflammatory, non-infectious diseases. It's a disease of our immune system. Well, wait a second. Who was teaching your immune system to behave and to be suppressed? Your T-cell regulation, that was being done by the bacteria. So it all comes. Look, if you are all over-inflamed, then maybe you were not taught earlier on, or maybe we're doing something now that's making us also more inflamed. So something that's going on in the beginning of your life, there's something that's going on today also that's making us so immune. We're just so inflamed. All of us are so inflamed. Why am I interested in inflammation? because I always said coronary artery disease is inflammatory. Everybody says coronary artery disease is inflammatory. Okay, fine, it's inflammatory, but what's the cause of the inflammation? But nobody knows. So today I'm going to tell you what all my readings that I've done and why I think that the immune system and the inflammation that we all get, cardiovascular disease, and I'm going to link it to your brain, I'm going to link it to your longevity, and all sorts of things, all comes from a bad gut. So let's start right there. That's a good intro to this, right? So what happens in your gut? The gut is the biggest problem we have because it is your biggest border. Your threat is not from this outside so much as it's from the inside. And its job is to selectively take in food and take in nutrients, but keep those bad boys out. You don't want bacteria in your gut. So what's happening? Your gut has these cells that are all aligned next to each other. These are all your colonocytes. They're all attached to each other. And they have chemicals in here, molecules, that tight junctions that keep the cells together so nothing can penetrate in between them, right? And then on this side, of course, you're going to have your gut. So you want to make sure that nothing from here gets past these tight junctions, as we call them, right? So another layer that you have is this layer over here, which I'm going to put blue. And this layer here is the mucus. You want lots of mucus over here, because if you don't have enough mucus, then the gut, which contains all the bacteria and bacterial wall products. How many? I told you, it's about 100 trillion maybe. They're all inside here, right? These things will get inside. So it has a thick mucus layer. See? Nice, thick mucus layer. And then what else do you have? You have another layer of protection. And this layer of protection is your immune cells. Your immune cells. Where are they? They're all over here. These are immune cells. These are T cells, these are B cells, and there's also macrophages over there. These are your cells. And by the way, almost 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So wait a second, here I am, and all my soldiers and policemen are all down there in the gut. Yeah, because that's your biggest problem. That's what. So they can get very stimulated by things that come across. So just think about it. If these things get across and they stimulate these cells, then those cells are going to say, aha, we have a problem. And they'll start producing inflammatory molecules such as interleukin-6 or tumor necrosis factor, which will all go up. These are inflammatory cytokines. They all start going up, so your body's getting inflamed. Why? Why is it getting inflamed? It's getting inflamed because you've got all these buggers coming inside. How do they get in? They get in if this is breached here, not enough mucin. There's mucin 1, mucin 2. Or they're getting breached because these tight junctions get destroyed. So why would that all happen? Why would that all happen? Well, who makes the mucin? These cells make mucin. These goblet cells that make the mucin. Okay? Now, when we don't make enough mucin, this will become very thin. And when they get very thin, then there's going to get transgression of these molecules going inside. Or if you have the wrong bacteria here, the bacteria will eat up this blue stuff. So these are polysaccharides. This mucin is polysaccharides. What do bacteria eat? They eat polysaccharides. So if you don't give the bacteria here food, which is fiber, which is what they want. They just want to eat different types of fiber. They also eat polysaccharides, right? Complex carbs. They want to eat complex carbs. When they're not around, they're going to eat your mucin. Now your mucin gets really thin. You've lost that border. And then these bacterial products will go across. So let's name this bacterial product. What's this bacterial product called? These products are called LPS, lipopolysaccharides. These are dead walls of the bacteria. They are the ones that get through. And when they get through, I'm going to draw them in as a little red dot. These LPS particles will find their way through here and they come in over here. Now the lipopolysaccharides have breached the wall because the mucin went through. If you also have food allergies or if the health of these cells is not good because of another reason. I'll tell you, the bacteria produce butyric acid. And butyric acid provides 70% of the energy of these cells. And therefore, if the wrong bacteria are here, they're not producing butyric acid, for example, or propionic acid, or acetoacetic acid. These are waste products of the bacteria. These supply the energy to these cells. So wait a second, these cells are supposed to be getting energy from you. No. Who's fueling the cells in your lining? Who's producing the energy for your cells in your lining? You think you are? No, you're not. It's the bacteria. The bacteria are so smart. This is their home. They're controlling everything that's going on in there. They're going to eat your mucin when they need to. They also produce butyric acid, especially the good one. These are called short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids are a byproduct of bacterial metabolism. They're very good for you because substances like butyric acid supply 70% of the energy of the colonocytes. So if I take away all your bacteria that make butyric acid, for example, you're going to have an energy-starved lining in your gut. And therefore, your gut is not going to work properly, and all these tight junctions are also going to break down. And you're going to get a leaky gut. Now, I shouldn't be using this word leaky gut because now people think that, oh, cardiologists using the word leaky gut. But leaky gut is real. And if you don't think it's real, then you should be reading more books. Leaky gut is real. It does happen. I was in that camp that said there's no such thing as leaky gut. I'm a cardiologist. But it's true. It does happen. So what happens is that we got to make sure that we have good bacteria here that make lots of butyric acid and other short-chain fatty acids and a lot more other metabolites that we don't even have the names of yet. We haven't figured all this thing out. But if we don't have these, your gut lining we know gets weak. Take out all your bacteria right now. Give it to me right now. 2 kilograms of it. Give it to me right now. You will start getting a leaky gut immediately. Right now. Right now, you'll get really sick. And when these LPSs get inside, your immune cells are going to get stimulated by this thing. The LPS will also be taken up by the macrophages, which is their job to do that, right? And these little LPSs will go into your circulation as well. The first place they're going to go to is your liver. First place they're going to go to your liver. And in the liver, there's these Kupffer cells, which are macrophages of the liver itself. And they're going to see these little particles come along and say, wait a second. They can't distinguish between real bacteria and the wall of the bacteria. They're going to start chewing them up. So they start grabbing them. And those Kupffer cells, when they grab them, they want to kill those things. So how do they kill? How do your white cells kill bacteria and viruses? How do they kill them? They produce cytokines. They produce chemicals. So those macrophages here start producing chemicals, which not only in turn hurt the lining, but the macrophages throughout your body will start making other chemicals. And in your liver, when you start getting injury, what do you develop? You get a fatty liver. Okay? So what happens? Why am I interested in this? Because when I see fatty liver, I know this patient is going to have metabolic disease. So if the insulin levels are good, wait a second, his insulin levels are good, his sugar levels are good, but he's got a real fatty liver and he's not an alcoholic. So why does he have a fatty liver then? And such an easy test to do, doing an ultrasound of your liver, just to see if you've got fatty liver. I do that. Let's go to fatty liver. Well, then it has to be coming from the gut. And this condition is what I call, and now there's a lot of people calling this the same thing. This is called metabolic endotoxemia. Metabolic, because it's due to metabolism, endotoxemia. I want you to get used to this term. It's a big word. Endotoxemia. That means inside your bloodstream, toxemia. This is toxicity. This LPS is also called endotoxin. And the endotoxin is the wall product of E. coli, the bad bacteria that you all know. There's a lot of E. coli here. So you're basically getting parts of E. coli going into your body. This is endotoxin. endotoxin then causes toxicity in the body. First starts in the liver. And of course, the immune cells. So these immune cells are all now activated. The B cells are going to start producing antibodies. The T cells are going to produce cytokines. They're really active, and they all talk to each other. So these chemicals get released into your bloodstream. The liver starts going crazy. It starts getting inflamed. If it's bad enough, the liver enzymes will go up. So you see slight increases in your liver enzymes. So you say, oh my goodness, he's got a fatty liver and his SGOT and SGPT are elevated. Bad liver. And then you're going to have more problems. So now let's draw in the more problems. And this is where I get interested. So let's take a macrophage. And a macrophage is the white cell, right? And here it is. And it has these pseudopods on it. A pseudopod, that means, it's got these things. And they grab one of these lipopolysaccharides in here, and then it becomes part of it, right? It takes it inside it, right? The right? So this is very important. But there's another thing that takes up LPS. And this is the exciting part. There's another molecule, well, not molecule, a structure that takes up LPS. These are WBCs, right? WBCs. There's another structure. Anyone know the name of that structure? This is a cardiology lecture. LDL, cholesterol, the low density lipoprotein. So this now watch. This is important for all of you because you better pass this class. The LDL has ApoB on it. It has free fatty acids in it. It has cholesterol in it. But it has receptors for the lipopolysaccharide. So the lipopolysaccharide comes into it here. So the immune system, so what am I saying? Well, wait a second. This is the job of the immune cells. I'm saying to you that the LDL particle is part of the immune system. So it's a whole new idea. Many people don't know that. Your lipoproteins are part of the immune system. And they seem to play a big role in picking up extraneous molecules. The lipoproteins take up this. Now, what happens to this LDL particle when it does this? There's a displacement of cholesterol. There's oxidation. And this LDL becomes a small, dense LDL. So it becomes smaller in size. Okay? And it has that thing on it now. Now, this small, dense LDL particle, now, this white cell comes along and sees that. And it gobbles it up. So now, you've got your macrophage coming and eating it up. And it might not eat one. It'll eat a whole bunch of them. Okay? They've eaten them up. Now, what happens when a white cell eats up the LDL particle that contains the LPS on it? These two things join up together. Now you've got a white cell or a macrophage that has fat inside it. And remember what that is? That's called a foam cell, right? And a foam cell is found in what? In plaque in the arteries. So the fat that is inside your plaque, that's inside your plaque. So, though the plaques contain fat. What fat is that? That fat is damaged, small, dense LDL that probably has lipopolysaccharides on it. That's why it's the target of your immune system. Look, your white cells don't target normal cholesterol. Cholesterol is made by every cell of your body. How can it develop a reaction against your own LDL? It can't. How can it react against cholesterol? It's not cholesterol either. Otherwise, there will be no cholesterol in your body because your white cells will be gobbling up all the cholesterol, gobbling up all your fats in your body, or your normal LDLs. No, it picks up deranged LDL, damaged LDL. Do you get it now? That is why LDL is not a good predictor of who's going to have progression of coronary artery disease or even a heart attack. LDL is not. But damaged LDL, small dense LDL, and lots of particles of small dense LDL predict who's going to get cardiovascular disease. So when you go and do your total cholesterol level check, you don't look at your LDLs. You look at small dense LDL, which is done on your advanced lipid panel or the Cleveland Heart Lab panel, which takes your LDL and breaks your LDL down. How many small dense particles do you have? Is it small? Damaged. Because if you have damaged LDL, that's the problem. And why is it damaged? Now, I showed you one mechanism by which your LDL got damaged. Right? It got damaged how? It got oxidized and damaged because of lipopolysaccharides. Now, I'm going to tell you more, since this is a cardiology class. If your sugars are running high, you glycate part of your LDL, so sugar. So now you got another charge on it. So you can damage your LDL by having a lot of sugar in your body. That's why I tell you, check your continuous glucose monitoring, especially if you're pre-diabetic. Because if periodically you're getting high spikes in sugar, even though your A1C may be okay, if you're getting high spikes in sugar, you are damaging your LDL particle. You're glycating it. What else damages your LDL particle? And you know about it because I told you about this. It's vegetable seed oils. That's omega-6. So omega-6, when you have a diet rich in omega-6, these fatty acids inside your LDL, they have double bonds, unsaturated bonds. So they get oxidized. So you get more damage. These get damaged because they get oxidized. So now you get more charge. So these particles are highly charged, they're small, they're dense, they've been deformed by either lipopolysaccharides that came from the gut, or you had too much sugar in your body, or you had too much omega-6 in your diet, vegetable seed oils. I'm trying to put all this together to have a common idea as to why is it. Because look, I see my patients who have normal HDL, normal triglycerides, but they have small dense particles. And I'm scratching my head, and the omega-6 levels are good too. So why does he have small dense particles? That patient has to have a leaky gut. He's got metabolic endotoxemia. Or my patient has uncontrolled diabetes, high insulin levels, he's got insulin resistance, not pointing at you, but he's basically got sugar that's damaging his LDL particles. I've got others who they just live on vegetable oils, they're eating fast foods, they're eating processed foods, they're doing all that stuff, and he's got problem because of omega-6, and that's damaging his particles. So I got to look at your advanced lipid panel to get an idea as to whether you have pattern A or pattern B in your LDL. If it's pattern B, it's small dense particles. If it's pattern A, you have mostly large fluffy particles. So this LDL is it's an indication of what? It's telling me that you got damaged LDL, it means you got inflammation going on in your body. You got something wrong. You either got too much sugar, or you got lipopolysaccharides, or you have wrong fats in your body and you're damaging. So now the question is that if this particle is roaming around, how come you get coronary artery disease? How come this stuff is going from your liver up to the right side of your heart and into your lungs? How come you don't have hardening of the arteries in your lungs from this? Now I'm going to explain to you why. So to do that, I'm going to have to clean the board a little bit. What I'm going to explain to you now, I hope will make a lot of sense. Why is it that the veins are not affected? How come only the artery, and how come it gets onto the other side? So I'm going to draw an artery first. Here's an artery. And let's assume this is your artery in your heart. On the outside of this, first of all, I'm going to draw endothelial cells. These are your lining, right? The lining of your artery. And this is a single layer cell. On the outside of this cell is this thing called the glycocalyx. The glycocalyx is a lipopolysaccharide. They're little hairs on the outside. And they have a negative charge, very highly negative charged. So along comes this deranged, bad molecule, the oxidized LDL particle, the small dense particle. And it's oxidized because it was innately oxidized, but as it goes to the lungs, higher oxygen tension is even more oxidized. But it comes along here to the left side now. It's oxidized and comes around to the left side. The arteries have the glycocalyx. Not in your lungs. You have a glycocalyx inside your coronary arteries. So as it comes through, my vision on this is that as it goes through the heart, the first branch is the coronary arteries. So the bulk of that bad stuff that you got from your gut goes into your coronary arteries. And then it dilutes out as it goes to the carotids and the rest of the body. Because I always used to ask, and I never had an answer, why the coronaries? How come my pulmonary arteries are not getting atherosclerotic disease? How come as I go further away, I get less disease? Unless I have diabetes, because then that's a systemic disease. It's just affecting the arteries in my legs as well. But if you talk about metabolic endotoxemia and other causes, it's mostly the coronaries. And I think this is one reason. So anyway, coming back here, this oxidized LDL comes here and it damages this because this has a big positive charge, this has a negative charge, and it damages this. Your glycocalyx is damaged. What else damages your glycocalyx? Sugar. So if you want to prime this process, keep a nice high blood sugar level and your glycocalyx will be damaged. See, now the glycocalyx is like hairs. All these things that are flowing, should be passing by. Actually, this is on this side. I drew it wrong. Yeah, because it's on the inside, remember? This is the blood bed. So they bounce off this hair. It's like grass growing there. They don't touch it in you and me normally. But when your glycocalyx has been damaged, either by high sugars or by oxidized LDL, these particles come in here like this. They adhere to this. They activate the endothelium. The endothelium says, I got to get rid of this bad boy. So it gets activated. So it starts expressing more adhesion molecules on the endothelial surface, which grabs more of these red things, grabs them all, their adhesion like Velcro. And then through a process of endocytosis, it pulls it in and takes it over onto the other side, oxidized LDL. What also comes across oftentimes are those white cells, the foam cells that already have some LDL in it. But when they come over here, the white cells act on these as well because it's still a foreign substance. It's still an abnormal LDL particle. So it gets gobbled up by your white cells. And when it gobbles a whole bunch of them, they become foam cells. So now you have foam cells. But remember, this bad boy here, this WBC, right, is going to make cytokines, chemicals that will dissolve the proteins around here. And before you know it, you have a nice little fatty streak going on here, a fat collection under the endothelium. And because of the chemicals that they produce, if they produce enough chemicals, they will cause a rupture over here. And when it causes a rupture, because the matrix metalloproteinase breaks this down, now you get a rupture. So when you get a rupture like this, now what's happening is you're going to get a blood clot forming here. Because the blood clot full of platelets. You see? You're getting a blood clot there. Now the blood clot gets covered over time, but you've got a little piece of plaque growing here now. And when I do a CT scan on you, I'm going to see that you have plaques because this all gets calcified over time. So there's your plaque. See, there's your plaque. And I can tell over time if it's calcified plaque, non-calcified, that means mostly fatty because it's got a lot of fat in it. And ultra low attenuation on CT scan, fatty streaks. So the plaque analysis can tell me there's a lot of fat in here, or it's mostly calcium. But the more fat here, that means you still have the white cells that have contained all the bad LDL. And therefore, there's more inflammation, because white cells are inflammation. It's like pus. Look, this is a pimple. And pimples tend to burst. And in this case, it bursts outward. So don't let your pimples burst. So this thing is a pimple. Now, if it's all fully calcified, there's less chance of it to rupture. But the more low attenuation it is on the CT scan, the more fat in it, the more you can assume there's inflammation. And remember, you can tell that this is a soft inflammatory plaque by doing blood tests also. I told you about small dense LDL. What else tells me that there's inflammation going on in your body? Look, inflammation is small dense LDL. The second thing, your CRP level. What is your CRP level? If it's elevated, you've got inflammation, you've got vascular inflammation. So all this has spilled over into the bloodstream, and you can actually pick it up on a blood test as well. You can tell that there's inflammation going on inside you. Your CRP level is elevated. So this is how plaque happens. And this is how I believe that plaques will rupture into the lumen, blood clot forms. Now, when a blood clot forms here, it re-enters here, and this thing retracts over time. So it retracts just like a scar retracts. So now you have a little bump in your artery. So if I do an angiogram or a stress test, you're going to pass your stress test. But if you still have metabolic endotoxemia and you still have all this stuff going on, you're going to rupture this again. And when you rupture it again, another blood clot forms over here. And then over time, that'll get endothelialized. Your plaque is growing. Plaques grow in stages. They burst and they heal. They burst and they heal. What? And what's inside it is blood clots. So your blood, if it is thick, clotty, you're going to one day, unfortunately, you rupture a plaque, and now you have a huge clot that closes the artery completely. And that's a heart attack. So angina is caused when you develop a narrowing inside your artery. So one day you ruptured and then your narrowing became like this. Now it's restricting flow, right? So you go for a stress test, you flunk. Or you may be getting chest pain because there's a narrowing. So this is, narrowing is a disease that causes angina, for which you may need a stent or you need bypass. But heart attacks, that's a different story. Heart attack is when the plaque ruptures and a previous minimal blockage becomes 100% overnight, in a matter of minutes, a matter of hours. That's what a heart attack is. So there's two different animals here, two different phenotypes. One phenotype is you're going to get angina, the other phenotype is you're going to get a heart attack. How can you tell about the narrowing? You do a stress test or look out for symptoms or do a CT angiogram. But if you want to know about soft plaque, do you have soft plaque? You can image it with a CT scan that has special software for soft plaque. Unfortunately, no insurance company is paying for that right now. But the technology is there. This is one of the benefits of AI. AI now allows you to analyze your plaque. Because the eye is not good enough, but AI can do it. So you do the CT angiogram, you send it off for analysis. It's called plaque analysis. And it comes back saying that, you have a coronary calcium score of, let's say, 1011. Then they'll say 80% of your plaque is calcium, 20% is soft. So you say, well, that's not too bad actually. But what I'm saying is 80% is soft and 15% is hard, which is calcified, and 5% is low attenuation. That means really low attenuation means just real fatty stuff that's ready to rupture. So if you have more than 4% low attenuation, more than 4% low attenuation plaque, your 5-year probability of having a heart attack is extremely high. So the problem is, technology is a little ahead of us right now because insurance don't want to pay for that soft plaque analysis. But that's what you're supposed to do. So one thing is you do the CT, the other thing you do the blood test. So let's say you say, well, look, I can't afford the CT. Then what do I do? Then just order the advanced lipid panel. You have small dense particles, you have high CRP level, you have inflammation. Do I need to see the inflammation on the CT? Not necessarily. I already know you have it. Someone will treat you. How do you treat it? You go back to your gut. fix the gut. Number 2, take care of your hormones. So you've got to make sure the insulin comes out. Now, watch. How am I going to fix your hormones? Intermittent fasting, diet. How am I going to fix your fatty liver? Intermittent fasting, diet. How am I going to fix your bad bacteria in your gut? Diet and intermittent fasting. So that's why I go to these conferences and we come up with all these mechanisms for heart disease. And at the end of the day, I stand up and I say the solution for all these different mechanisms is intermittent fasting and diet. 2 things. Comes down to intermittent fasting and diet. And that's how we're supposed to be. So what does intermittent fasting do to your gut bacteria? Well, your gut bacteria turn around very fast. Okay? Within hours, they replicate and die. And of course, every time you have a poop, billions of them go out. So it's a very dynamic process. The bacteria that were in me this morning have already turned over. Now they've got daughter cells, and they probably all survived in me. But my microbiome variety from this morning to now is different right now. I'm fasting right now. Right now, I'm fasting. I probably have some ketones going on in my body because I haven't eaten. My microbiome is very different right now. And then after I eat, it's going to change again. So I want you to understand how dynamic this is. What you eat is going to change your microbiome. So you go out and eat some garbage right now, your microbiome will be different. You will have sugar-loving molecules. Your fructose is going to cause more leaky gut, and bacteria are going to eat that. Then you eat some plastics. Then you eat some preservatives, and then you had some emulsifiers, and then you had some coloring as well, put it in it, and then you topped it with some diet drink or whatever. Now your microbiome is totally different because they're going to consume all those things. But those are not the bacteria you want to encourage to grow. You want Miracle Grow that's going to grow the good roses. You don't want Miracle Grow that's going to grow weeds. When you eat this garbage, you're growing weeds inside. So the food you want to put in there are complex carbohydrates only. And what are complex carbohydrates? Basically fiber. There's 2 kinds of fiber, right? There's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber is not what I advise all my patients to chug a lug on, because I think it's a little rough on the GI tract, but I'm not an expert on that. But I am an expert on soluble fiber. I love soluble fiber. That's the fiber, the inulin plus FOS that I advise everybody. You put it in a glass of water, and you shake it up, and it's completely clear, and you just down that. And you should do that before your meal. And you should be drinking before your meal anyway. So about half an hour before my meal, I'll chug a lug that down. Now it's lined my intestine, my stomach and all that, so that when I do consume something that may stimulate my pancreas, now my walls are lined with this fiber which forms a matrix, and hopefully I'll make less insulin because my stimulation of my K cells and L cells is going to be less in my duodenum. So the signal to the pancreas, I won't make so much insulin. So I want fiber. Why is fiber so good? It's because of this, because you decrease the stimulation of insulin. Fiber does that. That's why whole fruit is better than eating juice, or drinking juice, I should say. Because when you drink juice, you're not getting the fiber with it. And even if you juice it and you've just destroyed the fiber into slitherings, which can't do their job. Nature did put fructose and sugar with fruits, but the fruits are supposed to be eaten as is. And you're not supposed to frappe it and do all that stuff. You're supposed to eat it, you're supposed to masticate it. If you just chew something and spit it out, you'll see it's not pureed. It still has big pieces in it. That's how it's supposed to be. So it's not released all at once in your duodenum. And these people come to me and say, I got this protein powder, and I take two bananas, and I put blueberries and a straw and 5 strawberries in it, and then I take half an apple and I frappe it all down, and it comes out like this, and then I add some protein powder on top of it, 2 tablespoons of protein powder, and then I said, no wonder you still have a fatty liver. Can't do that. Body is not supposed to absorb things like that. So I say, okay, change your diet. Get back to your gut. Eat infrequently. Your bacterial flora changes when you fast. Now, there are keystone species that stay in your gut, and they will always be there. Unfortunately, it's hard to get rid of those. So you got to be a little cognizant of the fact that your childhood has had an effect on what's going on in you right now. Because which keystone species you decided to make part of your immune health over here depends on your exposure. Hopefully it was mom's, because mom also gave me all my mitochondrial DNA, and she also gave me all my microbiome in me and my immune system, and then she also gave me a lot of antibodies in mother's milk and everything. This is so beautiful. But if it's all messed up, I might have a problem, and that will have long-term consequences. So I'll tell you that I have a little grandbaby. She's just 7 months old now, my first grandbaby. So even before she was born, I told my daughter-in-law, who was amazing, I said, look, you need to top up on prebiotics and probiotics, especially something like the Infantis, Bifidobacterium infantis, because I said that's what the baby is going to want. That's why it's called Infantis. So she loads up with that. So when she gave birth, there it is. The baby is already given good chunk of probiotics, and the baby populates itself. And then the same mother's milk is containing all the right antibodies against the right things. It's sending the signals to her gut to heal and the immune system to develop in the right way, blah, 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 all that stuff. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful chemistry that all comes together. So eating right, eating the right stuff, eating infrequently, fasting in between is going to improve your microbiome. What else? So people say to me, okay, if you take more fiber, are you going to get a wider variety of bacteria in your gut? And the answer is yes. You do get a greater variety of bacteria if you eat a variety of prebiotic fibers. So eat yellow, green, purple, eat different types of vegetables. You should try to aim for 30 different types of vegetables. But included in that 30 count is herbs. We forget that. Look, herbs are not for you. When you garnish your food with herbs on top, oh yeah, you're good for me. Yeah, it's not good for you. It's good for your bacteria. So you must put herbs on your foods. So buy fresh herbs or buy the powdered ones. I don't care. Dried stuff. Just put herbs on your foods, because that counts as a vegetable. So guess what? You just did some nice seasoning with 3 different herbs. That's 3 vegetables already. So it's not difficult to get 32 different types of vegetables in the course of a week. You can do it. Because our diet becomes monotonous. We don't have that much variety in our food these days, and the vegetables. I'm not going to buy 30 different vegetables. Oh my God, no. Herbs count as a vegetable. So do that. Have different colors of foods and eat. You don't have to eat a lot of it, just a little bit. Because even a little bit goes a long way for the bacteria. So now you're encouraging the growth of different kinds of bacteria in your gut. Different variety of bacteria in your gut. Now, the other thing is, what about a probiotic? Well, I'll just take a probiotic, and a probiotic contains billions and billions or whatever it is. Well, you can do that. Probiotics also help. But if you stop taking the probiotic, your gut bacteria go back to the way they were before. Also, I want you to know that one species of bacteria that you introduce, it's not that you're populating yourself with that particular species. It's that species can affect the others. So they all take care of each other. So if you consume a strongman, a policeman type of bacteria in a probiotic, it's going to take care of the other bad boys. So what I'm saying to you is that when we do studies and we look to say, okay, I'm giving you Lactobacillus reuteri, for example, which I do use in my practice, then is it that a lot of that is going to be in the body? Well, not necessarily. Because what that will do is it'll encourage the growth of other bacteria, because they all take care of each other. See, they all produce substances that kill others. So when you bring in the right guy, he produces postbiotics that kills the bad boys. So there's a change that happens by introducing just a few good bacteria. So what are the good few bacteria? The few good bacteria are found in kefir. I love kefir because it's got 16 different kinds of probiotics in it, different bacteria in it. I love kefir. I think kefir is one of the easiest things that you can do. You can make it yourself, or you can buy the ready-made kefir. If you're allergic to dairy, you can even make kefir out of coconut milk. There's so many ways to make kefir, but eat fermented foods. Fermented foods also give you another advantage besides the active bacteria for your gut. they have postbiotics in them. And the postbiotics are chemicals that are, for example, the postbiotics in kefir are all the products that those bacteria produce. Those postbiotics, and we forget that you're doing it not just for the live bacteria, you're doing it for the postbiotics. They get released into your gut, and the postbiotics affects all the bacteria as well. For example, if you go and buy sauerkraut right now, there's a chance that the sauerkraut has not been pasteurized. But even if it's pasteurized sauerkraut, it's still helping you because it will have postbiotics in it. See, it'll have postbiotics in it. So you got to be careful because some of these, they pasteurize. So they're killing the bacteria. How come it's still good for you? Because it's the postbiotics that's in it. For example, sourdough bread. Some people can use it, some people can't use it. So what's so different about it? It's because it's fermented. Because it's fermented, it gets rid of some of the lectins that are in the wheat. So it made your wheat a little bit healthier by killing off the lectins. And the fermentation produced postbiotics that are in there. So that's how I look at everything. I look at it that, okay, so what changes did that fermentation? Bottom line, fermentation is first class. You all should learn how to ferment foods at home yourselves. You can make kimchi at home. You can make sauerkraut at home. You can actually ferment just about anything you want. And along in history, fermented meat also. First class. Excellent. People have done it for centuries. There's nothing wrong with fermentation. Fermentation process is always good. It's always been with us. It's part of nature, and it always does good. So yogurts, the drinks, of course, you all know about. Don't go for beer, though. It's also fermented. Alcohol. So too much alcohol will kill your bacteria in your gut. It's like putting hand lotion inside your gut. Would you do that? Would you take your hand lotion and lick it? No. Mouthwash. There's one. All my patients, I tell them, don't use mouthwash. Why? Because you're killing the microbiome in your mouth. Because the microbiome in the mouth is very, very important. Because when you consume a nitrogenous product, the bacteria in the mouth are integrally involved with that because the nitrogen that's in your saliva gets secreted out when you're eating. There's special bacteria here in the mouth that takes that nitrogen and converts it from nitrate to nitrite form. I don't know the exact chemistry, but it goes down into your gut, and under the pH of acid in your stomach, that nitrate becomes available to you, and that becomes nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. So as a vasodilator, it'll lower your blood pressure. Now, you can stop this whole process by taking mouthwash, and then lo and behold, your blood pressure will be up 15 points. So patients of mine who've actually stopped using mouthwash, they notice their blood pressures have come down. Because first of all, who told you to kill the bacteria in your mouth? Who told you to do that? There you go. Just don't do it. You need your mouth flora. Nobody told you to do that. But who told you to use creams on your body unnecessarily? Who told you to wash your hands with the stuff? Okay, so during COVID, I understand. But now, I don't use alcohol on my hands except when I'm doing surgery. I want bacteria on my hands. My normal flora, I want it. And when I go out to in the garden, I'm doing stuff, and I come back, I just wash my hands with soap again. I don't use all that fancy stuff on it. I don't. And then even if the little pieces, listen, the soil is full of bacteria. You want to improve your microbiome, all of you? You want to improve your microbiome, right? It's not just what you're eating, it's also what you're breathing. So go out and breathe. Breathe on the ocean. And with every breath that you're taking in, millions of bacteria coming into you and populating you. It's called biophilia. You can go out into the forest, go for a hike. How come you feel so good when you come back from a hike and everything tastes better and you feel so good, your stomach? Because you've changed your microbiome. You've just interacted with your environment. You must exchange bacteria. Go out on the grass. After it's rained, that smell that you get, that's fantastic. Go out. Put your hands in mud. Sand is not sand. It's alive. It's alive with bacteria. In fact, it's so alive that if soil was not alive with bacteria, you can't grow anything in it unless you use industrial fertilizers. And then, of course, what will grow in it will be garbage. It'll look nice and big and strong, but it'll have no taste, no nutrients in it, because all you gave it was nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium, which was, of course, left over from World War II. Because the same stuff is used for making explosives. But now we put it on our farms, and we kill the microbiome in the gut, in the soil. So when we kill the microbiome in the soil, look, I want you to understand, I'm just going to digress a little bit here, because it's all about the microbiome, right? So I'm going to digress a little bit. When you plant something in soil, the leaves will make glucose. It will go down through photosynthesis into the roots and goes into those little rootlets. And when you pull that thing out, you can see it's a little oily, it's a little, on that rootlet. What's that? Those are polysaccharides and sugars that the plant is producing and sending out into the rootlets. So what's it sending to the rootlets for? It's the bacteria. So the bacteria come along and they eat that stuff. And in return, in our stomach, they're producing postbiotics. And in return, what do they do to the plant? They're making the chemicals, the phytonutrients. Those phytonutrients then get absorbed by the rootlets of the plant, and that's what goes up into the plant and then goes into your fruit and all the leaves that you eat and whatever you harvest off the plant and you eating. Don't think the plant made it. It was participating in it, but it came from your bacteria. So you go backwards and you reverse engineer it. It all comes from the bacteria in your gut. Bacteria in your soil. And of course, I just said it comes from your gut too. You see, you reverse engineer all the chemicals in you, they all go back to the bacteria in your gut as well. Look, the same thing that's happening there is happening in you. So you want to live on nitrogen, potassium, and phosphate? Go and eat ultra-processed food. The same equivalent as your agriculture. That's why I'm so interested right now in how we can improve our farming, because I just told you something else just now. And that should trigger your head about carbon. Because the plant made carbon molecules, they went down into the soil, the bacteria harvested those for themselves, and therefore then where did that carbon go? It stayed in the soil with the bacteria. So what's this happened to the soil? It became carbon rich. That's called carbon sequestration. So when you grow things in real soil, carbon levels go down, which we're not doing now. That's why carbon levels are going so high. You can produce all the carbon in the world you want. It'll contribute 20% to global warming and the carbon, but most of the carbon is not being sequestrated, neither in the oceans nor in the soils, because of the way we're doing agriculture and the way we fish. But that's a digression. But my interest in this is because I see so much analogy with what's going on in our gut. And I want healthy foods. I see that everything's coming from the bacteria. The plants are getting the phytonutrients from the bacteria. We're getting our micronutrients from the bacteria. Why are we waging a war against bacteria? Every course of antibiotics you take, over the next 90 days, you're going to get sick with something else. Been shown over and over and over again. Your resilience, your longevity, your overall health, your anti-inflammatory state, all related to your gut health. All related to your gut health. You need your bacteria. Without your bacteria, you're a sitting duck for diseases. Now, I showed you the glycocalyx, right? There's the glycocalyx in your brain, on your blood-brain barrier too. These lipopolysaccharides go to the blood-brain barrier, they disrupt it, and they get into your brain. And then what disease do you get in the brain? You get brain fog, dementia, Alzheimer's. Depression is nothing but an inflammatory disease. End of story. You know somebody who's depressed? Time to look at his gut. Your joints. The glycocalyx is in your joints. You're having premature joint disease. You shouldn't be having this kind of disease. Look at what's going on with inflammation. Inflammation is disrupting your glycocalyx in your joint and causing inflammation in your joint. Look, when these patients come back and they change what they're eating and how they're eating, and they're eating real foods and they're doing intermittent fasting with it, all of a sudden they come back, they say the joints are better. It's not because they unloaded 100 pounds. Their joints are already better. They are anti-inflammatory. The hands, they can bend their hands better. They come back, and all these things. So this inflammation, I told you what's going on in the coronary artery. It's happening in the brain. It's happening in your joints. It's happening everywhere in your body. Not just the coronaries. In the coronaries, this is what's going to manifest. In the brain, you're going to get mental fog. And look, if I take lipopolysaccharide molecules and I take half a cc of it and I inject it into you right now, you're not going to die. But you know what you're going to do? You're going to feel tired, fatigued. You're like a dog that's sick then. You just want to go into the corner and just sit down. You got sickness syndrome. What is sickness syndrome? Withdrawal, depression, apathy, no interest in anything. We recognize it in the dog, we don't really recognize it in ourselves. If you're feeling like that dog, you've got this. You've got sickness syndrome. It's from lipopolysaccharide, it's from the inflammatory state. Don't think that your mental state is all related to your mental state. It's not. It's your chemistry. And I'm going to scare you with one more thing. That these lipopolysaccharides going through your blood-brain barrier, they also have the microbiome in your gut, and leaky gut can also produce chemicals that go directly up your vagus nerve, directly into your brain. So they cause vagus nerve dysfunction. So when it causes vagus nerve dysfunction, because that vagus nerve is now toxic, right? You're going to get orthostatic hypotension, inappropriate sinus tachycardia. So they come to me. These are young people. Every time they stand up, their heart rate's 130, 140. Blood pressures are low. Their autonomic nervous system's all whacked off. Why? Because the vagus nerve is dysfunctional. So the vagus nerve, parasympathetic, is dysfunctional. Why? From gut bacteria. You fix your gut, your parasympathetic nervous system gets better. The reflux. How come my patients get better with reflux when I put them on this diet? All the reflux goes away. And by the way, I stop all proton pump inhibitors. There's a black box warning on it. It's only supposed to be taken for 4 weeks, but you are all on PPIs forever. You need the acid in your stomach. I told you one reason already why you need the acid, because I told you nitrite goes to nitrates and gets absorbed. You get vasodilation, that's nitric oxide, right? So that occurs when your pH in your stomach has to be less than 3.5. But forgetting that, it's the bacteria. The bad boys are supposed to die in your stomach. Good bacteria then make their way down, further down. But you have open borders because your pH is 7 in your stomach. How good is that? Why did we have so much acidity in the stomach? There was a purpose for it, to make sure that the bacteria don't go any further. This is it. Now, when they do get through, or if your colon is impoverished, the bacteria move into the small bowel. And sometimes they just end up small bowel anyway. And you get this condition called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So patients with SIBO, do they get leaky gut? Yes. In fact, more than if they're leaking in the colon. Now I'm going to explain why. Because in the small bowel, the lining of mucus is only 1 layer thick. In the colon, it's 2 layer thick. So in your small bowel, if you have bacterial overgrowth, you're going to get SIBO and symptoms, which is I eat, I bloat. I feel pregnant after eating. Within half an hour, 45 minutes of eating, I feel bloated, I feel so pregnant, and then after 2-3 hours, it all goes down. I get discomfort, I get grumbling in my stomach. I can test for that. You can do a hydrogen methane breath test where you make them drink some lactulose and then check the hydrogen excretion at half an hour, 1 hour, and 2 hours. And you can do that in the hospital. You can do the breath test and it will show that the hydrogen is really high because that gas is hydrogen. Or if you have methanogenic organisms which come from the large colon, they make methane, or methane, however you want to pronounce that. So they make a lot of methane. You can get rid of this condition. Why am I interested in it? Because I think that contributes to lipopolysaccharides going into your bloodstream and causing metabolic endotoxemia. So what happens? This patient comes to me. His coronary calcium score keeps going up and up and up. He's doing everything right. Finally, you ask him about his gut, and he says, oh my God, doc, I'm glad you asked me about my gut. I get constipation, I get diarrhea some days, I bloat like crazy, nobody can fix it. They scoped me from the top, they scoped me from the bottom. They found nothing. It's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So how does Dr. J treat it? Yeah, I can give you a very expensive antibiotic called Rifaximin. It'll cost you about $4,000. It's changed these days, nothing. But I can also give you a concoction of herbs. And the one that I use is a nice concoction of herbs for 14 days, followed by some curcumin, and then I repopulate your gut with good fiber and all that. And majority of the patients get better. They say, oh my goodness, my pants are looser, I can get around, I feel better. And they can, now, of course, there's a relapse rate too. So about a third of them come back in a few months. Why? Because they're not eating right still. So you need to fix it and then start eating right. So I'm saying to you that if you're having these symptoms in your gut, take it seriously. Hippocrates also said that all disease starts in the gut. Everything starts in the gut. There are 22,000 plus genes in you. There's about 2 million genes in your bacteria. Your genes can't change. Maybe your ancestors, your future 5, 7, 10 generations from now, they'll get a mutation and they'll be able to digest plastics. But right now, you can't. But your bacteria can, because they have so many genes. Just think about this. You can start eating this today. Chances are the bacteria will be able to do something with it. Heck, they cleaned up the Gulf of Mexico with bacteria. That's what I'm trying to tell you, that there's so many genes in your gut. Just think about it. There's so many genes in your... That's why you can go to Tokyo and eat their food, and your microbiome will change because it adapts to it. And then you come back to the United States and you start eating regular food that we eat over here, and your microbiome changes because they're all there, ready. The genetic material is ready to change. So don't take it lightly. You have a exquisite machinery inside your gut that can genetically change at a moment's request. But the request needs to be well-founded, founded that I need this, and I'm going to eat this because it's of benefit to me, to you, to my postbiotics, and my body. I want to get rid of my leaky gut. You must take fish oil. Fish oil is needed every day to fix a leaky gut. You need 2 grams of fish oil to fix a leaky gut. You need to make sure you're not mercury toxic. You cannot fix a leaky gut unless you make sure you don't have heavy metal toxicity, of which mercury is the biggest one, mercury and lead. You need to make sure you're getting fiber in your diet, the phytonutrients. If you can't find all those vegetables, then go and buy some powdered stuff that's made from different vegetables, cruciferous extracts, or some form of prebiotic fiber, a variety of them. Eat that every day. So at least you're feeding those guys down there. Don't be selfish. Don't eat only for the upper part of your intestines, the sugary stuff. Stay away from fructose. Fructose causes leaky gut, causes insulin resistance, causes fatty liver. Fruits are not a health food. What? Yes, they're not. Who joined fruits and vegetables together? The Department of Agriculture. Fruits are fruits. Vegetables are vegetables. Vegetables are superior to fruits any day. And anyone who tells you otherwise needs to look at recent literature. The fructose is only supposed to be consumed in its natural form with all the fiber in season before you are going into hibernation. And hibernation never comes for us. So it's only seasonal fruit. Only seasonal fruit. That's all you can do. Whatever is in season, that's it. So you want to improve your gut, you need to do a lot of these different things you need to put into place into your body. Yeah. So there's a lot more I can talk. I can talk for another hour on the gut and the microbiome and all the different things that go into it and what else you can do from infrared saunas to I already mentioned biophilia, stress management, how to rebuild your vagus nerve. That was the last lecture that I gave. You can hack your vagus nerve to make it better and heal. It's a bidirectional thing. When you hack your vagus nerve, you can actually heal your gut forward and backwards to your brain. And by the way, when you go back to your brain, it's got rostral connections to your frontal lobe. When you do this, all of a sudden you say, I'm looking at the world differently because you did vagal exercises. So now thoughts that would never otherwise have come to you because you're getting out of your default network in your brain. So you've got to understand that you're stuck in a default network in your brain. You can't get out of it. To get out of it, this is one of the biggest ways you can do it, meditation and vagal nerve exercises. It liberates your frontal lobe into thinking differently. I said, I started doing those exercises, meditation, chanting, gargling, cold water to my face, breathing exercise, and all of a sudden, I'm feeling a lot better. Well, why? Just because you did that? So what? It's because you fixed your vagus nerve. The healing, restoration, digestion, reproduction portion of your physiology. So get out of your FFF. Fight, fright, flight, sympathetic all the time. Get out of that, get into your parasympathetic mode. You see, for healing. You need to live in your parasympathetic mode. Your parasympathetic is related to your gut. If your parasympathetic is off tilter, because your gut is off tilter. So you want to fix your vagus nerve and say, okay, I want to live parasympathetic. You better fix your gut first. Don't think that you're going to fix your parasympathetic system by shrinking yourself out of it and reading books and saying, okay, I'm going to think my way out of this. You can't. I'm telling you, you can't. You need to hack your vagus nerve. And the way the vagus nerve, the biggest distribution of the vagus nerve is to the gut. So go via the gut. Change what you're eating, change when you eat, change what kind of foods you eat, and do all that stuff and supplement. Fix your gut, fix your bacteria. Then do vagal nerve stimulation to fix the vagus nerve itself. Have lots of omega-3 so that all those nerve endings can get better. You'll get better connections to the brain. From the brain to the frontal lobe, all of a sudden your default network will open up. And you'll feel differently, think differently, and the whole world will look different. It all starts in the gut. So you see, just reverse engineer, it comes down to your gut. Feeling depressed, feeling bad, reverse engineer it. Fix your gut first and then fix your vagus nerve and everything will be okay. So anyway, that was another digression. But it's not really a digression because what I'm trying to tell you is that your gut is connected to your whole life. Your gut is. From inflammation to depression to your affect to your sleep to your joints to your weight to your metabolism, everything. It's your gut. Go via your gut. So fast, do time-restricted feeding, do 3-day water fast every now and then. Depends on your goal, whether you're doing weight loss or whether you just want general health or you're looking at decreasing arthritis, autoimmune disease, lupus, or whether you have high blood pressure and you have coronary artery disease. It depends on your goal, whatever your goals are. But do your fasting. Do your intermittent fasting. Do mega fasts if you're grossly overweight. Do a 7-day water fast, but do it gradually like my videos show you so that you can turn on your ketogenesis. Otherwise, you'll get a gap in between because you're changing from glucose to ketones and there's a big gap in between. You'll feel lousy. But do it through your gut first and you will have a great life. Thank you, guys. That's it. Oh, it's a great question. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But I can tell you one thing, that if you have the right microbiome in your gut and the flu comes around and you have the right microbiome in here, you're not going to get as bad a flu because you've got a whole bunch of viruses and bacteria that are going to work with you. But if I swipe all those bacteria out with you and then give you a flu, you'll be out on the floor for the count of 10. Now, the parasites, I really have to research that. I don't know too much about parasites. I'll maybe next time Yes, ma'am. Okay, I don't like flax seeds too much, especially for men, because there's a lot of estrogens in it. And it contains ALA, which is omega-3, but only 10% of that gets converted to omega-3, the real thing that you want. So if you're a vegetarian, fine, you can have that, or you can have algae omega-3. But otherwise, just go for the real thing, which is fish oil. And you're not going to get enough by eating fish. You're just not, because today's fish doesn't have omega-3 in it. So just go and buy 2 grams every day, 2 capsules, a gram each of fish oil. So. Fecal transplants, I think they're going to come. One day they'll be here. We haven't reached that point yet, except for CDT, which is Clostridium difficile toxin. So these patients who receive a whole course of antibiotics for a whole month, they get CDT, they get diarrhea, they're ready to die, or take out the colon completely because they're going to die. So what they do is they give them Flagyl, clean out their gut, and then they take a fecal transplant and they do it via colonoscopy and put it. It's a lifesaver for CDT. Now, is it going to be useful for all of us in the future? Maybe. We don't know yet. The Californians are already doing it. So you can actually go to California and get a poop transplant right now. There are places that actually do it. Yeah. But you see, this is the thing is that you have 2 twins, right? And you take the fecal transplant from one twin to the other, and this twin is obese and this one is not. Though the lean one will become obese. And fecal transplants given to thin people who had CDT from a donor that was obese, they become obese. So there's an obesogenic microbiome. Now I'm going to define that a little bit if I can. An obesogenic microbiome is one that it comes from someone who has a lot of toxins in them, especially estrogens. So if you eat a lot of foods that have estrogens, for example, milk that has a lot of estrogen because all the cows were pregnant, that's how you got the milk, or if you consume non-organic meats, they have a lot of estrogens in them. Or estrogen stimulator receptors such as plastics. Eating plastics and plasticizers and these they cause an obesogenic microbiome. And that's why, look, I told you, get rid of all plastics from your house. If you don't, you're going to get obese, because that is what causes an obesogenic microbiome. So yeah, I hate estrogens in our diet. Have to get out from that. So. Okay, so when the gut heals, there's no longer ongoing damage, right? But the inflammation that's inside here will heal. So this will become a calcified plaque. But remember what I said. It's not the plaques that are calcified that rupture. It is the soft, fatty, low attenuation, and those will get better. So they will become hardened. The end result of the repair is calcification. So yes, they will. So everywhere in the body, it will heal. Even your brain will heal. Your brain will heal. So. I think your question is very pertinent. It's a very deep and very complex question. I'm going to answer it as simply as I can. It's because it's not in the interest of the food industry. Yeah. It's not in the interest of government. It's not in the interest of farm subsidies. It's not in the interest of advertising companies. Even the networks will not carry a story like mine. Otherwise, I should have been inundated by the networks asking me to come and talk about it. But they won't, because their revenues come from drug companies that are pushing the drugs for the same conditions that I'm talking about.
I mean, the billionaires from COVID, the vaccine?
All sorts of things. So I think it will happen right now. It's tough, but it is happening. And where is it happening? It's happening through people like you going out and talking to people, sharing this knowledge, looking at my YouTubes, for example, or other people's YouTubes and passing it, and then deciding through your own choices. Your choice at the supermarket, your choice at the farmer's market, and making this. That's how it's going to happen. Then eventually the food industry is going to change. Now, government policies, that's going to be a difficult thing to, because right now the government policies is what's actually still pushing all this, they subsidize the production of some of the foods that I think are absolutely terrible.
Yeah, but the seasons.
We're finding out those herbs? Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, it's called Candibactin, 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 A and B, 14-day course. Curcumin, 300 milligrams BID, twice a day. And then essential oils are oil of oregano, oil of cinnamon, oil of clove, and then inulin plus FOS, which is the fiber that I use, right? There you go. That's your concoction. But you first do the 14-day course, and then you do this for SIBO.
Very simple.
Because kifa has more strains in it. It's got at least 12 to 16 different strains. Well, yogurt only has 5 or 6 strains in it. Yeah, so I like more strains in it, different kinds. The lady at the back. It's okay. Like my patient the other day came and she wasn't losing weight. Hemoglobin A1C was still very high. She's only eating once a day and her sugars were still high. And I said, what's wrong? And she's eating 5 prunes a day. 5. I said, no, you take 5 plums. Would you eat 5 plums a day? See my point? So with dried fruit, the problem is you can put those away so easily. On one phone call with your favorite friend and you've already put away 4 prunes and an apricot and half an apple. It's too much. So I don't like it. I don't like that too much. And if you're constipated, you take 1 or 2, that's fine. I can eat 1, actually not even 2. Now figs are very high in fiber, but also very high in sugar. So when do I eat a fig? Look, I love figs, okay? So when do I have a fig? I'll have a fig maybe once a week after dinner. After dinner. So that my insulin rise is not going to be that much from the fig, because fig it's got a lot of fiber in it. So I do like figs, got a lot of fiber in it. So that's good. So it's sugar with fiber. Fiber. I love fiber. Yes, ma'am. Your question is very good. What's your cutoff for insulin rise? Unfortunately, you can't do that because there's no measurement. You don't have continuous insulin monitoring, although that's coming. That's continuous glucose monitoring. So continuous insulin monitoring is coming. It's going to be in about 2 years. Okay? Because remember, it's really your insulin that you want to look at. But you also want to look at sugar, because I showed you that sugar, glucose causes glycation of your hemoglobin. That's why hemoglobin A1C will be high or not high, but it glycates all the other molecules and causes redox of oxygen species to also go up and all this. So what is normal? So you want your continuous glucose monitoring to be between 80 and 130. 140 is borderline, but anything more than 140 is a problem. Now, if it's hitting 200, you have a problem. Okay, so the way you look at insulin is your fasting insulin level should be less than 8. So you can get your fasting insulin levels when you do your advanced lipid panel, and they'll do it in that, or the Cleveland Heart Lab, they'll do that, fasting. But your postprandial, after you eat, what's your insulin doing? Because remember, a lot of people have very nice low insulin levels at rest, but it should be less than 8. But some people are like 2, 3, but when you give them sugar, the insulins go off the wall. So that's called the Kraft test that we do over here, right? For that, the way you measure it is at 2 and 3 hours. The combined total between 2 and 3 hours should be less than 60. So let's say you are 40 at 2 hours and you are 30 at 3 hours, that's 70. You have insulin resistance. So that's how you know whether someone has insulin. So if your fasting is important, but it's your postprandial, your 2nd and 3rd hour.
Read the Kraft test. If you had like your insulin level came back at 11 when you had your blood work done, they consider it.
Yeah. It should. The trouble is that nobody knows how to do it. Nobody's done. I'm the only one ordering it in my office, and that's why I have my own machine and I do it here myself. Yeah. I'm the only physician that I know that's doing a craft test.
Just one real quick. Well, I read in that about vitamin C giving men kidney stones. Is there any truth in that?
Yeah. Not really.
And how about B vitamins? You never did mention
B vitamins are very important, but it has to be methylated B12 because methylation is what's needed to turn on your epigenetics. So you must have methylated. Don't just take regular B12. It has to be methylated B12 complex. Where do you get that? Anyway, we have it here, but anyway, methylated, not only B12, B12 complex. That all of you should take one methylated B12 complex is what I recommend. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, great.
It's very hard. I agree with you. It's very hard. So, like our baby is still on mother's milk and she's 7 months. So she eats a little bit of regular food, right? Regular food meaning mashed up stuff that she eats, but very little of that. So by the time she's 1, she's going to start eating a variety and we will give her that. But as far as the antibiotics are good, it's a no. Now, if you do this right from now, she's going to have less ear infections, less sore throat. So So if they have to have an antibiotic, make sure that they take it. If they have to, absolutely have to have it. But remember, a lot of those are viral infections. But if they have to have it, follow it afterwards with prebiotics, postbiotics, and fermented foods. Yeah, I don't go with flavored stuff. But if that's the only way to give a kid it, give the kid it. If that's the only way to do it. Yes. I love carnivore diet. So a lot of patients come to me and they've got all sorts of problems and they got SIBO and they've got all these metabolic things. And it's a sum total of an image that I make of what's going on in them. And then I'll turn around and say, okay, for the next 3 months, I want you to be a carnivore. And they do that. All of a sudden, they're losing weight. They're feeling great. The mental fog is gone. Because remember one thing, plants are poisons. Plants make poisons so that they don't become subject to devouring by other animals, right? So we can't eat the plants. We got to cook them right. We got to pressure cook them. We got to soak certain things. We got to sprout certain things. Why? Because you get rid of the bad lectins inside and bad chemicals in there. All plants have hundreds of different bad chemicals in them, but we need them. So cook it right, sauce it right.
You're killing them by eating the animals, though, because they eat the plants for us.
Yeah. So a carnivore diet has been very helpful to a lot of patients. When I say that as a cardiologist, I get a lot of eyebrows going up. Because in my opinion, someone eating red meat, which is grass-finished, nothing wrong with it. Because they don't have omega-6. Because the regular meat is sick cows. You got cows with metabolic syndrome. Their fat is full of omega-6. They're sick. They're full of antibiotics because you're eating a sick cow. And then you expect to be healthy. And not only that, if you're eating a burger, you're eating pieces of 100 sick cows in each mouthpiece. Every time you take a bite, you're having the DNA of 100 different... No, that's not carnivore diet. Carnivore diet means you source your food right, you eat your fish, chicken, turkey, and eggs, and a little bit of greens on the side, any vegetable that you want. Just a little bit. Yeah.
All right.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with not cooking those particular ones. They're fine. Those are not the problem. The problems are the lectins containing ones, the beans, the peas, the other lentils. Yeah, they have to be soaked and then cooked in a pressure cooker. Yeah, but the bell peppers, tomatoes, all those are going to be okay. Not a problem. I'll take one. So AI right now I'm not using in here except for the analysis of my plaque. Okay, otherwise I'm not using AI because it's as good as what you feed into it. And the answer to your first question about the fatty liver is no, there's no panacea for fatty liver. Fatty liver is what you eat and the metabolic endotoxemia, the sugar, the high insulin, alcohol, and fructose. Those are the key things that you want to say. Now, in terms of taking a treatment for it, this is what I tell you. You got a fatty liver, you're going to make the dietary change. But if you don't want to do the dietary changes or you can't, then you're going to take N-acetylcysteine, NAC. Number 2, it's a supplement. By the way, NAC is very good. Everyone who's got any degree of atherosclerosis in the body, go buy that supplement. It's a very easy supplement. N-acetylcysteine. Your mitochondria will work better. You will feel better. Within a few weeks, you'll have more energy. It's called NAC. Also for fatty liver, I give 2 other supplements occasionally. One's called astaxanthin and one's called alpha-lipoic acid. If you liked this video, here's one that I would recommend. And if you want to see my latest video, please click here.